I'm gonna take him with you. Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, no. Don't go off.
Can you hear me?
Can you? Wait,
You went out?
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
I can.
Alrighty.
Well,
Let me see if I should turn my phone up. Oh, goodness. All right. Now, let's see how that sounds.
Well, I am going to start the show on my podcast channel, and
Okay.
and then I'll just bring in Miriam. So, welcome to Bridges Live. Miriam, right?
No, Myrna.
Myrna. I apologize, Myrna.
You can just call me Dr. Me.
Dr. Me. I did like that when I heard one of your shows. You did.
Those are my initials, and so my nickname was Me, and I always wrote under Me.
Okay.
And so when I finished, I just said, "Well, Dr. Me."
So we're gonna welcome in Dr. Me, Myrna. That's a lot easier for me. I like your name, Myrna. Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
That's fun.
So welcome to Bridges Live with Dr. Paul, and I'm glad you're able to come on and visit with me here on my show and podcast. And everyone, I like to thank all my sponsors that helps me out and donates and sponsors to iHeart and iTunes. And I broadcast it on. You can always download me. No thanks. On any channel you want and go from there. So. Myrna, introduce yourself to my audience. I know you're Dr. Me, but introduce yourself to my people.
Okay, guys, that's why I asked you what we're going to talk about. Just to give you a little blurb, my name is Myrna-Elois Davis Washington, and I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas.
My mother was born in Little Rock.
Where?
In Little Rock. I don't know exactly where.
What school did she go to?
She's passed now, so I can't even ask her, but yeah, she was born and went to school in Little Rock and everything, and
everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
We probably know. My mother knew everybody. She's passed too, but she knew everybody. She was there when she came from Marlton, and she was there when it first started, but I left at 17.
Okay.
And I've been working in this field. I started out in pre-med, and very early on I moved to dance and dance exercise because I saw the way, and that was 1968. And I saw that exercise and dance was the way. But I started studying yoga and practicing, and moved to D.C. I was at Howard University, moved to D.C. And I'm sorry, this went off. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good, because it just went off on me. Okay, but I moved from D.C. to California, and in California I worked as a dance-exercise instructor. I kind of freelanced all over and did corporate interventions, and it was enough that it was lucrative for me to be a contract instructor, and I did that for 28 years, and raised my kids. It was a way I could take my children with me. I have 3 children, and I have 5 children, but 2 are my grandchildren I adopted and raised them from birth. So I've been busy with my children, and I promised myself when the youngest one got in high school, I would go back to college. And I went back in my 50s. I went back to study the biopsychosocial model, which I really like, the biopsychosocial model of psychology. I love that more than the Freudian model.
Yes.
I guess that's what I was waiting on was that model, because it teaches us that all of our domains can act as the causes, consequences, and correlates of each other. There's just no telling what causes human behavior, because our behavior is so complex. For me, I have found that the Creator, and I give all due to the Creator that created this body, is so magnificent.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That for me, after all these years, because I've been doing it now 50 years, that the shortest distance between 2 points is always a straight line. So when you want the best effects from God, you go straight to God. Nothing in between, just straight to God. I have taught dance for 30 years, exercise in there. I write poetry. I also have been writing for another 40 years. I experienced enlightenment after meditating for 8 years. And I've experienced enlightenment at least 2 more times and ascended at least 5 times in my journey. I have converted to, and this is formally to Catholicism, Judaism, as Tantra, science of the mind. I practice and I combine all of those, and I'm an Omnist minister now. I just believe in God. I find God everywhere because I seek God everywhere. And you know, it's a well-known psychological tenet that expectation equals outcome.
Yes.
So if I look for God and expect to find God, I find it, and I found God everywhere. So very early on in psychology, I saw where it looked to me like Buddhism and Christianity were saying the same thing. They're 2,000 years apart, but they mirror each other.
Yeah, they do.
And we don't have any evidence of what Christ was for those 14 years in between. You know, he disappeared for 15 years and came back at 29.
Right.
There's evidence he was in India, evidence he was in China, and he very easily could have traveled the world. India says that he was there. But the principles that he espouses are the same as Buddhist. And so...
not many people know that. And a lot of people never... I guess they don't really want to expand their mind into getting into that. So they're still stuck in... they're still in their own lane. So to expand their... It's... Because I do practice Buddhism. And I've been raised Catholic, and I go to a Baptist church, and I study Judaism, and I go to temple, so I understand exactly where you are when you're talking about it. It is a whole anonymous thing that goes on with this.
You know what? Someone gave me a story one time, and this makes a lot of sense. The problem that we have is that everybody has all these different names for the one God.
Yes.
There is only one life force. The problem is that who names us? Our parents name us. Okay?
Right.
Well, we have all these children naming the Creator. And that's where we have the problem, because in a family, I grew up in a big family. There are 10 of us. And so each of us calls my mother something different. And she's a different mother to each of us, but she gives each of us what we need. But there's still only one mother.
Yes.
And so that concept of the one God, the one concept, I like to tell people, wasn't a name. That's the name you decided to call it. That is the greatest evidence that we have that God is within each of us. Because everybody gets so belligerent that my way is the right way. You know, that the way I did it is the way that it is, and that's the way it should be. When I take a Jungian approach, whatever works, you know. If it works for you, and if it gives you, and you find the joy and happiness in it, then that's your Zen. And just so many people I tell that my mother thought I was Christianity. She thought Buddha was God, and I had to enlighten her as to the fact that each of us is a Buddha. And what Buddha was telling us is that we can all be Buddha. Jesus was telling us we can all be Christ.
Right, he was.
I have that problem in my goddess movement. I have a awakened goddess within movement going, and a lot of the goddess movements out there are sexual. Mine is spiritual, because Christ told us, he said, I have told you, ye are gods, all of you, children of the Most High. And we are, if we are made in God's image, and God is infinite. Even the smallest particle of an infinite being is infinite as well. You know, infinity times infinity is infinity.
It's infinity.
Yes, and so we have infinite power. We don't even know how powerful we are, and there is no measure to how much power we can get. It's just up to us. We sit, we be still. God tells us in the Bible, be still and know that I am God.
Mm-hmm.
I will be exalted among nations. I will be exalted in the cosmos. God, the one that's in you. I know when I looked at what you said we were going to discuss was whole health.
Yes.
I thought the only healer is God. The only healer is love. But the trick is you must seek God within.
Right.
You must seek God within. That which you are seeking, you are. You are you are your own savior. So all these people are sitting and waiting on something outside to come and save you when God planted it inside you to find inside you. And to me, that's just fascinating. I'm like a kid. I'm so fascinated by it. I'm fascinated with all these tools. Like, I think they're magic. I feel like Merlin, like thoughts are things.
And then finding the stone, and bringing in it, and then connecting the pieces. Because I had just written something today about how this earth that we're living on has so much to offer us. And when we're ready to see it, you seek it out, you dig it out, and then you soak it up. And then once you soak it up, then you bring it within inside yourself, like you said, and then there's an understanding to it. And once you understand it, then you can emanate it. You can let it shine in the vertical. Yeah.
The peace that passes all understanding is what is available to us. One of the things about mindfulness people don't realize is mindfulness is not about doing all of these elaborate exercises. It's actually about doing nothing.
Yeah.
Sitting still and quieting your mortal thoughts so that the energy can flow through you. And that when you court calm, when you practice, and practice is everything, the more you practice, the better you get. And so it shortens the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Mm-hmm. Just practice, you're there. And I forgot where I was because it just excites me. But
and that's why I call it the living practice. I call it the living sciences. People say, "What do you do, Dr. Paul?" I say, "I teach the living sciences." And they say, "What does that mean?" I say, "Well, you've been broken up into sciences as it's only this or some of that." Well, the sciences is the study of the living structure where we are, the living process. There is, I love mathematics, and I love physics, and I love cellular biology, and I love the healing modalities. I love all of that. But all those things are sciences. And studying that so what I normally do is teach what people are doing, and I help them to understand how it affects you internally on a cellular level. So when
it does rewrite your DNA for you.
Yes, right. But most people don't know what DNA is. So I try to help understand the concept, or I try to, layman's terms, bring DNA and atoms and neurons into the thought process of your actions. So how it affects your organs and how it affects your body on a cellular. So this way, I always think if people understood what they were doing, they would do it. They would either do it more often, or they would be more connected to what they're doing.
Do you know what? Sound healing.
Yeah.
Because it's all vibration.
Right.
It's all vibration. God is a frequency that exists within us. And it's the sound. You know, when we think sound created light, and light created knowledge. And that is so wonderful. The Bible tells you in the beginning was the Word. People, I have a lot of ministers that tell me, and I have 4 ordained ministers in my immediate family. So I have them telling me, well, the Bible was there. I said, there wasn't even paper.
No.
You know, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word is sound. And sound creates light. The Bible tells you that God is sound. Mm-hmm. God is light. 1 John 1:5 says that Jesus says, this is the secret I came to give you, that God is light, and in Him there is no darkness at all. So that's the evidence there. You'll see a lot of people try to translate that, but it's verbatim, light. And it's photoelectromagnetic energy, the tetragrammatron, which is the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost in the Bible. In the Bible, I wondered what, I teach breathing, and I focus on mindful deep breathing. So I wondered, I know that the word spirit means breath or wind. So I wondered who translated the Bible that they used the word spirit. So I wondered what the Hebrew word for spirit was, and it turned out to be ruach.
Right.
Ruach in Hebrew means breath or wind, and it is always used to refer to God. So God is our breath, our very breath. And that kind of brought me full circle, because when I went back to school, I went back to prove, but we know now that science doesn't prove anything. It suggests causes. It's a force, but it doesn't prove. But I went back to prove the existence of God right here, right now. And what I found was all this evidence of God as our breath. Behold, I am with you always.
Always.
It is an autonomic function of our body. That you can stop breathing if you wanted to. You can go without food for 21 days. You can go without water for 7 days. But you can't go without air for more than 3 minutes.
Right.
You're going to go. And then little hints that were given. The Bible tells you came from dust. And now science is telling us that our bodies are made up of the elements of the earth on which we live. The very elements of the earth. We came from the earth. And so God tells us that from dust you came, and from dust you will return. Your body is going to go back to being earth. And it's all the same organism. To me, that's just so fascinating that energy cannot be created or destroyed.
No.
It just is.
It just is.
It just changes form.
Energy.
It just changes form.
And we don't understand that we have that power within us to allow that form to resonate inside us. And that's what resonate is sound. Resonating is sound.
Yep. That's what divine resonance is, an alignment. I have, through just the last 2 years, started practicing chakra healing. And the sound...
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
I lost the connection there. Sorry about that.
That's okay. And my mouth was just going. It was just...
No. It was fine. It's just that I lost the connection real quick there, and now I got you back. But we were talking about how sound is healing, and so when we talk to people, and when I like to talk to all kinds of people, they just my goal is to reach them before they get so, not, the word is not lost, but to get them to open up is the best way I want to say. Do you find that also to be like a troublesome, and to doing that yourself is to get to people? Because something...
No, people just come and tell me their deepest secrets, and it's always been that way with me, that somebody will sit down and tell me something they don't tell anybody else, and it's a deep secret that they're disclosing to me. And I've had that all my life, that people tell me things, very intimate things, and open up to me. And they tell me that they feel comfortable enough to open with me. And that is, I don't know if that's my gift, I guess, is to get people to open up. But it's always been that way, that people always feel very comfortable in my home around me. And I just love people anyway. And this has been my whole life. I remember, I'll call her a friend of me, but when I was growing up, I was like one of those straight A students, and I had people who followed me and sat beside me to cheat. And I had one friend that the only time I saw her was when she needed something academically or to write. And she looked at me and she went, she was trying to figure out how I made such good grades. And I made such good grades because I studied. That was the key.
There's a difference.
Yes, And but she looked at me and she went, you know what? You like everybody. that's going to take you a long way in life. I do, but the thing is that I look for God in everyone. And that's what we're supposed to do, is look for ourselves. First, look for God within yourself. You'll find it. And once you find it within yourself, it'll be easy to match that in the world, you know. And so, because I think I remember the first time I discovered that, I was little, I was young. I was hanging out the church window. I'd done something for someone, and they were thanking me. And the feeling I got when they said, thank you so much, it just felt so good to give, to love, to care, until that became something I wanted to do, is I want to love people. I will get very often, because I grew up, I was one of what they call in Little Rock the first 25. There's Little Rock 9.
Yeah.
Okay, and they came in 1957, and that was the first phase of desegregation in Little Rock. And then 3 years later, they chose 25 little 10-year-olds to integrate the junior high school. And I was one of the 25 they chose. There were 7 at my school. It was worse than Central High. And we were younger. We were only 10 and 11 years old. And it was much more traumatic. We're still dealing with it. One of my friends, I'm also a doctor in Little Rock, Laverne, was one of the 25. She wrote a book 2 years ago, and it's the first 25. And she came and interviewed each of us about our experiences. And I think it fractured our community.
How
I think
so?
integration, I think it tore our community up, because before integration, because when they asked for integration in Little Rock, they didn't ask for integration. My mother was very active in the schools. They asked for their equal but separate share of funding for schools. We were getting secondhand books. Yeah, we were getting secondhand books from the white schools. When they got through with them, they sent us books that were all torn up and written in, and they got the new books, we got the old books. We were asking for new and our own, and what they did was they integrated the schools and tore down the black schools. They sent us all to the white schools and tore down the black.
So a lot of this type of community, it hurt the community that we did have. And that's what happened. And that's what you're saying.
It tore down, like they got rid of the Y. We had a black YWCA. We had a black YMCA. We had a black boys club. We are the only group of people in this country who have a network of over 100 different black-owned colleges and universities. And we didn't just set those up. We had 4 in Little Rock alone. We had, 3. Baptist College, Shorter College, and Philander Smith. And they've been there for years and years.
Okay, right.
Very well established. And then we have all through the South all of these colleges and universities where we're teaching our children. And we were just asking for our equal share.
Yeah, that's all the reason it was. It was equal share. It wasn't their share. It was equal share.
And everybody I talked to, my husband was in Ohio, and he said the same thing. They came and they tore down the black high school and sent them all to the white one. And that meant a lot of our black teachers, and we had some phenomenal black teachers. I know that some of them came over to Central, but that meant a lot of them didn't get recognized and didn't work. They stayed back at the black high schools. And then they later closed them. And that's sad, because I know that my mother was very active when we went to black high schools, black schools. And she was in the school. She was always present in the PTA, and she chaperoned the kids and very active. And when I went to the white junior high school, she was intimidated naturally, and so she didn't come up to the school. I felt like I lost my mother as a supporter in school, because she was very intimidated by coming up to the school, and there were times when I needed defending.
And she wasn't there. And it wasn't because she didn't want to be there. She just...
No, she was intimidated.
Yeah.
What they did to the blacks in the South back then was horrible. I mean, for them to watch people get drugged down the street and hung. They hung my great-grandfather. they hung my great uncle in front of my grandfather. And so we have that in our history, that my grandfather remembered that till the day he died. And I was there when he died. He cried about it on his deathbed. And my great-grandparents were farmers and teachers and upstanding people who worked hard. My grandfather was the first postmaster. And to have all of that taken away, taken away from us because they couldn't handle seeing us succeed. And that's what it is that's what happened in Oklahoma City when they bombed it.
Yeah.
That Oklahoma City was Black Wall Street. It was up and coming, millionaires, and they literally bombed it. There were cities they went in and lynched. I know people want to hush about this right now, but
do you think so? Because I do talk about this a lot, and I reference it a lot, and I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to talk to the choir who sing with me, which is great to hear. But there are so many others who don't ever want to even mention it. And my question is, I'm okay with people's choices, but here's where I stand on choice. Do you understand why you don't want to mention it? If you understood why you don't want to mention it and explain that to me, then I believe you have a choice.
Yes.
But until then, now it just seems like you're just blocked off.
Yes. They think that's distancing themselves, detaching from it, will distance them from it and absolve them, but it won't. Not only does the DNA go down line 7 generations strong, also, to quote the sins of the forefathers, go down 7 generations and affect them. I'm only 4 generations away from a slave.
Yeah.
My great-grandmother was a slave. She came to live with my grandmother when I was about 3 or 4 and stayed. She died when I was 8. And she played with me. She was not any bigger than me. And she played with me. She'd been a school teacher, and she was one of the first black educators in Marlton. And they named the school district after her. It was, for a while, the Sarah E. Clark Unified School District. And I met several lawyers when they were defending the school district to keep her name.
Okay.
Because when they found out she was a slave, a former slave, they wanted to remove her name from it. And she would tell me stories about when she was a slave, and we can't forget that.
No.
If we forget that, we are doomed to repeat it. We need to learn from it. It is not something that, that we should be ashamed of. That was our forefathers.
Right.
And the only way we can progress from it is to look at the situation and extract the inherent lesson in it. Nothing in life occurs by accident. So there's a lesson in there. That's what God wanted to teach us, something in that. And in slavery, I'm still trying to figure the lesson that God intends for us to learn from slavery.
From slavery?
Yes, because I went back, and for a while I was totally into owning up to my whole African heritage. I was selling African art and buying African art, wearing African clothes, and then it dawned on me, Africans sold us into slavery.
Yes.
They sold our ancestors into slavery.
Yeah.
They didn't go in and steal.
No.
Or they didn't invade.
Because it was tribal. It was tribal.
But you know what else? Also, when I'm researching now, pandemics.
Yes.
This isn't the first pandemic.
No.
The earth is rising up and purging itself, and it does it periodically. They don't know where viruses come from. But I know that when I was researching enlightenment, they also equated with viruses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I watched something this morning where the gentleman, just very eye-opening, where he was saying that look at this as something positive. Everybody has to go home. Everybody has to spend time with people they love.
That's right.
Everybody has to spend time on themselves and nurture themselves at home and not be out in public. Don't you think God wants us to come home?
Yes.
Viruses viruses have a message encoded in them, and they're not organic.
And I just talked about, and it's so funny, I just talked about that today on a podcast about the positive of us coming home, slowing down, because, and I even spoke about how if most people try to go to church to get their enthusiasm of the word. Maybe this is your time that you need to get so you can find the word within you. Yes. Or maybe there was a father who didn't spend time with the children and now he gets to come home. So there's a lot of this. I'm like, so it's slowing you down. My wife said the same thing. Yes. It's maybe God's just trying to slow us down. I said, well, it's funny because I told her, I said, I did the podcast this morning about the same thing. So that's funny how it...
I have some posters and memes I put out because most of my work is online. But one of them is, I left the light on, look within. You know, if you close your eyes in Buddhism, remember Myoho? Myoho is right here, third eye chakra.
Third eye right here.
You close your eyes and you can see Myoho. When I teach children how to meditate, they can see Myoho right away.
Yes.
They close their eyes.
Absolutely.
I used to watch it as I went to sleep, and I didn't even know what I was watching. It would be like a light show. I'd close my eyes and I'd watch this kaleidoscope. And now with the fractal imaging on computers, they're able to duplicate it. That's the closest thing I've seen in person, you know, in the physical world, to what I can see here. I can see, I did a book called Through the Eye of God and Back, and it was shortly after I experienced enlightenment. And as it turns out, as I look back at it, that was 44 years ago. And as I look back at it, I said, my goodness, I was traveling back up through to the star chakra because I was going back through the silver cord towards source.
To the source.
To source. And we're all connected to source. There is silver cord connecting us. And Wishful Bible says, ye shall live as long as your cord is intact. So as long as that cord is intact and we are connected, our human body will exist. But when the breath leaves us, when we give up the breath, the spirit, and it goes back to source, that's when we die.
And so when I teach the different structures and sciences in that, I start with the breath. And people have asked me why. I said, let's start from the original of, it is breath. It has always been the beginning of breath.
Yes, always been breath.
And so I studied in China, and I lived in a monastery for just over a year and a half, a year and change. And so the Buddhist monks, we talk about that all the time. It all starts, the world Om starts with the breath.
It's all breath.
Yeah.
Do you know, I've been, and I will be putting this on Facebook just to share with people, but chanting God. And yesterday I was doing my practice, and you hear a lot of people, there's a gentleman here in Colorado, and I love his videos and his posts, but his voice is so deep that I don't have that register when I go to chant with him in a very deep, deep voice. But when I was chanting which you chant for peace, when you say Aum, is the first part of Aum. It is when you, I was always saying you chant as in Ma, but it's as in God. And you open your mouth, and God told me yesterday, God doesn't use words, God uses frequencies. This is the word, the words that came through was, I don't want to use your larynx.
Yeah.
I don't need to use your larynx. I don't need to use your throat.
No.
Open surrender every part of your body and open up and let that air flow through you. Let that energy flow through you. And so when I begin, you can feel it.
Yes.
I can feel it in the chakra. Like when I was chanting this was the Okay, I took a deep breath, a deep belly breath, and it was
It's a whole different sound. Right.
Oh, yes. I feel that in my chest. When you are, for instance, when you are clearing your root chakra, it's as in cup, but you can feel that in that area in your root chakra. When it's ooh, people don't realize that ooh is also creative and sexual. You say ooh when you feel something good, when you hear something good, but ooh is the sound of the sacral chakra. Right. And just using all those sounds, they call them seed sounds, to plant those sounds. And those sounds are in words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're in the words. And here's something else I discovered.
Words have power.
All of the vowel sounds, let's see, let me get it. A, here's A.
Yeah.
E, I, O, U,
mm-hmm.
and there's two more, and ah. Those are all vowels. Vowels carry the energy in this plane. When God appeared to people in the Bible, when God said its name, it didn't say Jehovah.
Right.
Humans put Jehovah in there. It said JVHV. And I don't know how that would be pronounced, or YWHW. I mean, let's see, YHWH, Yahweh. Okay. And so it did not put the sounds in there.
Mm-mm.
It didn't have the vowels in there. It was just the consonants. And I was like, okay, well, how could you just sound consonants out? I would love to hear that sounded out. But for us, we need those sounds on the physical plane.
Right.
Because that's how this energy is carried.
Mm-hmm.
I do Reiki angelic healing because I love angels, and God gave us those angels. They're promised in the Bible. And it says, and people who don't use angels, they don't know what power they're missing. Angels are very, very powerful. And they're just light being, like rays of light, with no form. That's what the Bible tells you, is that it's not male or female. That belongs to this physical plane.
That's right.
Here.
Yeah.
There is no gender in heaven.
No.
You know?
So many humans, so many people think on this plane.
Yes, they can't come out of the body.
They can't. They're so stuck. They're stuck, and
yes.
And you know, we're going to do this again. And
yes.
And I'm excited to do this again.
I am totally enjoying this. Really, that is my favorite subject. If I were to talk like this with anybody else, they'd be thinking I was crazy. I'm so used to.
And that because I literally in public, I've talked to my wife sometimes. When I start talking, I start to lose people, and she pats me, right? Like, and then I'm like, I have to it's almost like I tell my Paul.
You're so excited.
Yeah.
Because it excites you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Calm down. Right. So calm.
Yes. It just excites me. I come in here, sometimes I have to run into my sacred space and do dance and turn on some music. And just God excites me, and I am so honored to be a servant. I gave myself to God it's such a beautiful feeling. I want everyone to experience that. And it is something that exists within each of us. You're not going to find it outside you. I keep telling people over and over and over, stop looking outside yourself for God.
Wow.
Stop looking outside yourself for approval. Everything you have. My mother used to say, when God said, that's good, that's good. Okay? So you have everything that you need to get everything you want already. You just got to look inside to find it. And people say, well, I tried meditation. I said, you probably just talked about it.
Yeah.
You probably didn't sit down and do it. Most people talk about prayer more than they pray.
Yes.
When I see them praying on Facebook, I'm going, you're praying to the wrong person. Because Jesus tells you, he says, don't be like the Pharisees praying in public so other people can see you. That's in the Sermon on the Mount.
Mm-hmm.
He said, go behind closed doors and pray to your Father in secret, and he will reward you openly. So when you are praying, I can't pray in front of other people. I can pray for people.
Yeah, there's a difference. Yeah.
I pray for people. It's done. I can't take, as a healer, I can't take their problems unto me.
No.
Or it would drain me.
No.
All I can do is funnel the energy to them.
Yeah.
And
that way.
Sometimes a psychic hug or a hug really helps, but just to convey the love and the light that God has allowed to flow through us. I'm just a conduit. I'm nothing. I'm just letting myself go and letting
this is just a vessel anyway. That's all
yes.
this is.
And the greatest thing we can do is to surrender our body to that creative life force. I more and more just contemplate different terms over and over, but when God said, I am the living God, that really resonates with me. I am a God who grants life. I am life.
I am life. Right. I am life.
I am. And sometimes I joke and say I am is an open-ended sentence. When God said I am, it's whatever you put behind it. That's the magic of it. You program your life by the words of your mouth and the meditations of your heart. And
Miriam, we can talk forever, but podcasters, I know they don't listen forever. So
okay.
I'm going to cut. Just hold on there for a second. We'll talk offline. But I want to thank everyone for listening to Bridges Live, and we'll be back to you again next week.